Meanwhile, in the aftermath of the court decision, the opposition called a hastily planned press briefing to give its reaction. There, they chided the government for undertaking expenditure of public funds for a program that was facing a court challenge. TVJ's Kalisha Williams was there.
Hours after the Supreme Court ruled the NIDS Act null and void, the parliamentary opposition at an emergency press briefing said it was a victory for democracy.
We feel validated that the court has shared our concerns. The court has reflected exactly what we have been saying from the outset and has found that this legislation breaches our constitutional rights.
But with millions spent on a public education campaign while the act was being challenged, the opposition has described the expenditure as a waste of money. NIDS is being financed by a $68 million loan from the Inter-American Development Bank.
Well, the ramifications is that the monies that you have spent thus far have been wasted. That's the first point. And that therefore, speed, there's the old saying that haste makes waste. And in this instance, you have a classic example of haste wasting the taxpayers' money because it's a loan, it's not a grant.
Dr. Phillips said they're at that stage because the government has not shown enough respect to the people's rights. He outlined steps to be taken to implement a national ID system. The first being a gradual approach, as opposed to what he said was rushing it through the system.
By the government. One of the reasons why Parliament has the procedure for a joint select committee. One is meeting now on the abortion question, for example, is because you recognize that from time to time you have legislation of such significance, of such massive public interest concern that it can't be just left to parliamentarians alone.
For instance, the Joint Select Committee, which would address recommendations for a data protection bill to support the National Identification System.
We needed a Data Protection Act before we passed NIDS because it involves so much data. The Data Protection Act was sent to a Joint Select Committee. And since
April of last year.
And since Minister Wheatley is no longer the minister, and the Prime Minister was the minister, and now we have a new minister, there has been no attempt to reconvene the Joint Select Committee on Data Protection.
The opposition leader did indicate that before agreeing to any future legislation surrounding a national identification system, his team would have to carefully analyze today's judgment. Reporting from People's National Party headquarters, I'm Kalisha Williams for TVJ News.